Hey, this is Danny Byrd. I'm here with Future Music Magazine and I'm breaking down my new track, Selecta, featuring DWE, out on Ministry of Sound right now. So we're going to have a quick look at how I made some of the bass for this track. It's very simple bass by drum and bass standards on this one, but one of the troubles with this track was it was in the key of C, which is a terrible key for drum and bass because the low octave is really low, so like shake your house, shake all your foundations, and the higher octave is too high to really feel it. So a lot of drum and bass producers, they make their tracks in the key of F. If you look in record parts and you see a drum and bass track, it's all F, or F minor. But I find that a little bit boring. I don't ever start my tracks with a particular key in mind. It's just, you let the sample dictate what key it's in, or so this track was in the key of C, which is a little bit challenging. So I'll show you how I came across that in the mix down and how I helped it beef that up. Right, so the first bass line, the first patch that I used was a patch I made on Massive, which was I called Hoover Wicked 2, which is just a simple Reese sound that I'd come up with. Now it's got quite a lot of effects on this sound, like a lot of parallel distortion and stuff. So if I turn those both off, you'll hear it just play. So the actual parallel distortion adds a lot to it. The patch itself is just a simple patch with two speech oscillators and one detuned off each other, a classic Reese thing. One thing that I found important was I made a macro with to control the pitch of oscillator 2, and that changes the speed of it. So you can hear it going faster there. So I use that to kind of lock in the speed of the track. Like certain oscillations have different grooves with this. So like we play around with the notes for quite a long time, and at that 21 there, it felt like it was moving. It's like it got its own groove to it. So if you hear it's faster there, it's not quite as good, So yeah, the oscillation has to be right. It's not an LFO, it's just the time between the two oscillations that's giving it that modulation. And then, that sounds quite vanilla on its own, but we added a decapitator to it. Just solo that on its own. So decapitated with the drive on, I had just destroyed on Punish basically. And one thing I always do with like mid-range bass sounds is I always use the Waves SSL channel as well. It's like I love the Plug-in Alliance ones. Like they're really good and modern. But for some reason, like the Waves SSL is like just really good for dirty stuff and just quick. I don't know, like the SSL, the Waves. Maybe it's because it's one of the first ones I bought, but I just always it's really good for mid bass. Just crank up the highs in the mid range on that. Yeah, rolled off a load of bottom on there, and then I felt that there probably wasn't enough bite to it as well, so I added another parallel distortion track with the Bit Crusher, Standard Bit Crusher. And actually, I'm not using. Is that going through that? No, I didn't even use that. Maybe I thought I was going to use that, but didn't use that for this part of the track. I mean, the distortion just adds like an extra layer to it. If you listen to the track without the decapitator on, one of those things you can just like hear, you can feel rather than hear, but it was important to add that to it and give it that kind of extra bite to the track. But there's the second layer is with the sub. So when we wrote the track, we just used it with that patch, and that patch had you know, it has a fair amount of bass in it, but we wanted to add the sub on it. And like I said, with this being in the key of C, it became a real problem to like get it sounding really heavy. So what we ended up doing was copy the notes to a serum, just a simple sine wave, I think, yeah, analog sine wave, and rolling off. So this is with it. This is what it was like, just as it was, and I rolled off a load of the bottom end. Sorry, a lot of the top end. So roll it off at 240, and then I limited it as well with the Pro L. In fact, I was not doing a limit. I was just getting the level up. And then what I find here was I love this plugin, the True Iron. So this gave it a nice bit of saturation to it. This is great for subs, basically. And then boosted it again on the, in fact I'm not boosting anything on them, that's a dormant plugin. I think what I was doing with this was desperately trying to like get more weight to this, and you know, and luckily I found like there's a great YouTube channel by Streaky Mastering. Streaky, he's a legend, and he had a tip. He said if your sub bass is not hitting, try this tip. It was like just a quick YouTube thing. I was like, yeah, I'm nicking that, and I tried it and it actually really worked. So this is the Golfos plugin, which is kind of like an automatic EQ. It's very hard to describe, and people don't quite know how to describe it. But it kind of, it's like an AI EQ for your sounds, and there's one that they've just brought a new one out that's you can use on your master, Golfos Master as well. So I'm using that on my masters as well. It just balances things out. And so yeah, with this Golfos, it just levels out all the frequencies a little bit more. I put the recovery rate up to 37%, the tame to 100%, bias to 50, brighten to -10, and then I just pulled it down so it's only affecting like 22 hertz, 222 hertz underneath that, and yeah, just it added like a low more, not so much weight, but just like balanced all the notes out and stuff, and yeah, like that's a trick I use on all my bass now. Like I found that one for this tune, and yeah, it's like if you yeah, it just like added that extra kind of bottom end that I needed to that. Yeah, so after I put the Golfos on, the sub goes through to its own little sub channel, and I always have my trusty track spacer plugin, which is always been sidechained to the kick or the snare. You can hear a little bit of the kick bleeding into this, but it sounds fine in the mix. For my sidechain, I generally always use track spacer, but sometimes lately I've been using this plugin. Oh, what's it called? Sweetronics, is it? Yeah, Laser, which is kind of like a side chain on steroids compared to the track spacer. Sometimes I use those in combination, but the track spacer was, I don't think I was using Laser up at the point where I was making this track. But the track spacer I always use on my kick and snare, sidechain it to the bass. And so for the kick, I put the attack all the way down, the release to nothing as well. So it's literally just like ducking as soon as the kick comes in. I don't want any kind of like pumping as such. It literally just gets out the way of it. So it's really good for that. I think that's pretty much it for the bass.